Welcome to the Scott Holland Podcast, back at a positively busy and exciting week in the world of Houston Cougar athletics. We are still here in the afterglow of Willie Fritz taking over as head coach of the Houston Cougar football program. A big win for Cougar men's basketball in the past week. Cougar volleyball, unfortunately, like their season is over, but I don't think you could feel better about how a season ended and how a team played this year than the three of us feel. So we're going to talk about that. We got women's basketball as well. A lot of stuff going on tonight, Dustin. Again, like we've been recording often enough in the past couple weeks. I mean, when you replace the head football coach, that'll do that. That'll compress the recording schedule a bit. So it's only been a few days, but how you doing, friend?
Doing well. Yeah, I'm really excited, other than I think with maybe one little minor exception at the end, talking about a bunch of sports that we feel really positively about. And I've got a bullet point in here. I won't break it too much, but just about how the overall just kind of lack of belief I have in how good things are going athletically for as Houston Cougar fans right now. So very exciting time to be doing this podcast. Very excited to be talking to y'all.
Bobby, how you doing, bud?
Hey man, couldn't be any better. I'm headed down to Houston this weekend, so gonna watch some Cougar basketball with Dustin. So really excited about that.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So doing a little throw. I was doing them off before we recorded, off mic, I guess. And I was hoping not to have it, but that's just our little tribute to the football coaches here the last 5 years. Me clearing my throat here. Hopefully not very often for you. What we are more excited about than my throat noises is our Patreon, patreon.com/SHPAWDcast. For as little as 16 cents a day, you could support the multi-times a week. At least we've been going at that clip the last couple weeks. Cougar content that we've been putting out here for you. Your financial support doesn't just give you access to premium shows and access to, like getting our ear more than maybe the average listener, but also to phrase the time and effort that the three of us spend a lot of into doing this here podcast. So we really appreciate the many and numerous numbers of y'all that do so already. And of course, if you're not in a position to do so, maybe you're just getting on listening to us, but you like what we do. And we appreciate really wherever you've come in on listening to the show, whether you've been with us since 2015 or whether you discovered this show in the last couple weeks. We really appreciate each and every one of you. And not ready to support us yet financially, or just not in that place, you could give us a free review anywhere you get podcasts. Apple and Spotify are the big ones, but I'm sure Google and other places do as well. Of course, also support our good network friends, the 1012 Network, talking all things over there. Bobby and I were on not that long ago last week talking about the Houston Cougar football vacancy, who we expected to take the job, who we liked, et cetera, et cetera. Really good stuff there. Enjoyed hopping on with Philip and Bobby on it was Thursday morning, right, Bobby? No, Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning.
It all runs. We have so much fun. We have so much fun. It all truly runs together. Of course, wouldn't be podcast business also I didn't mention our good friends Charlie Hustle, charliehustle.com. Really doing cool stuff this week for Kansas charities, auctioning off some cool stuff. And this is a painful memory for me because the team that I'm wearing the hat of, if you're not watching, the Houston Astros, nearly eliminated this team from the playoffs, but they had, I believe, among the many cool things Charlie Hustle is auctioning for Kansas City charities is the bear suit that Danny Duffy was wearing. I don't know if you wore it multiple times during that playoff run, but it just reminds me of the fact that the Astros were like 5 outs away from eliminating the Royals in Houston in 2015. But I'm not bitter about it.
Oh man, that must suck. Oh.
It is. I didn't get much postseason success in the 8 years since then. It's been a real dry spell for me as an Ash. But no, really great people over there. Really cool auction they're doing. And tonight I am spokesmodeling the Charlie Hustle Cougar football T-shirt. Really enjoyed that. Really comfortable wearing it too. There's just something to be said for just the simplicity and wonderfulness of a comfortable tee, a comfortable crew neck, comfortable hoodie, all with great U of H logos on that you can get at charliehustle.com. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention you could save pretty much whenever you buy something at Charlie Hustle. That's how awesome they are, but you'd be really helping us out and saving yourself 15% if you use our promo code SHP15, SHP15. I think that's all the podcast business, fellas. You want to start with Willie Fritz, the now multiple day in tenure Houston Cougar head football coach.
Yeah, he didn't wake up and change his mind and go, oh no, I've made a horrible mistake, I'm going back to New Orleans. He's actually genuinely, it looks like, our head football coach, which is
it took him like an hour to drive 3 miles somewhere on Monday, and he's just like, no, can't do it, can't live here, can't has the ink dried yet? Nope.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. And I think we got an introductory press conference, which he won amazingly, shockingly enough. I know, who could have seen that coming. And certainly I think we're gonna have some thoughts here on the portal moving forward as well. But a couple of things that were just kind of like percolating in my brain since our last episode was, one, I think we kind of touched on this, but I don't think I really kind of went into it. Just like my heart breaks on some level for like Tulane fans, because especially like broadly speaking, A, and then B, just like how eerily similar this one felt at times. Just like the athletic director coming out and saying, hey, like we'll pay the $4.5 million, like, we'll pay whatever money they're gonna pay, like, and but it's deep in your heart, like realizing that that's not what it's about. It's not, it's not about the money. And then just before the news officially breaks, the quotes about wanting to have the focus be on his current team as long as he's still under contract there, the fans trying to rationalize their way out of what's happening by conflating, Tulane is a better team in 2023 with Tulane is a better job, broadly than Houston, which is, obviously two very different things. And something that our fans have totally done in the past when we saw coaches rumored to go. I've
done it.
We go, hey,
I've probably done it. I'm certain. Yeah, I'm certain I've done it.
All three of us have done that. So, I mean, I'm not saying that from a point of judgment or being, dismissive or anything. And then just also having the news break like right before kickoff of the coach's final game with the team. That one certainly felt familiar to us as well. So, that it's a dog eat dog world out there, and ultimately you'd rather be the dog doing the eating, but that doesn't mean you can't kind of stop and go, oh man, I remember what that feels like, and it doesn't feel great. So the one is out there, but then also just kind of like on the other side of that, just like I think I briefly mentioned but didn't really dive into in the last episode, just like how often you don't get as a fan like, oh yeah, they fired the coach I wanted fired, and then they hired the exact coach that I had in mind. Like, you just don't get that often. Like, that's it's a weird feeling to just see it actually play out exactly the way that you want it to. And then I think about I think a big part of the malaise that I've been feeling about Cougar football, why I've often felt more like apathetic than angry, I think, during a lot of Dana Holgerson's tenure, is just rooted in how unbelievably lucky I feel to have the U of H men's basketball program that we have, right? Before Kelvin showed up, you could have bribed me with a men's basketball program that is less impressive than the one we actually have in real life, and I would have like signed away football ever being relevant again in my lifetime. That's how much I love basketball. That's how much I was sure we were never going to be good again, and how much I would have done a deal with the devil to like have us be even a little bit good at basketball as opposed to like maybe the best team in the country.
Mephistopheles would have read like annual NCAA tournament team, and I'm pounding the table. I'm like, sign. Where is it? Before you even get to the top 5 and top 10 and Kelvin actually wanting to stay here long term, I'd be like, where can I sign? Where could I sign? Because it was just so unbelievable to us,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you throw in volleyball, another program that I've loved since I was a student and always wanted to see actually be good, finally starting to realize its potential with just an awesome coach. Just like, it's hard for me to get that mad about any other sport. Obviously, I want to see our football program do well, but it's hard to get as mad as you would if we didn't have those other fantastic programs, leading the department. And to have all those things we already have, and then now also to be in the Big 12 with Willie Fritz running the football program, it barely feels real. This is not what being a Cougar fan has traditionally felt like. It's weird, and I think I like it, but yeah, it's been wild, and it's just what an exciting roller coaster that we're on right now.
Yeah, I think just to kind of go back on a couple of things you talked about, being the big dog who's eating is definitely a weird sensation for me, and it like you said, it was very eerily similar. And one of the big things they talked about in his introductory press conference was how much our leadership liked the fact that he wanted to stay until the game, but also him thanking us for doing that. But here's the thing. You can tell negotiations happened the week before. One, you don't make a deal like that within 12 hours, right? Like, that's number one. But number two, Tulane coming out going, we'll pay up to $4.5 million per year. And then he happens to sign for $4.5 million per year. You're like, this is, what a coincidence. Like, you're kind of like,
it's the Brian Windhorst meme where he's pointing up like, why would they do that?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, it was just kind of like, okay, that's right. Okay, so we're going to believe that all of that happened. At least, like, this is going to sound terrible, but at least when we all knew Sumlin was leaving, it was coming out that week, but our athletic department wasn't like, we'll pay up to this amount. Like, it wasn't 100% clear that he was negotiating that week, and then you saw the team kind of take the field and the game plan being non-existent. You're like, maybe he was, but like that one was pretty bad when I saw we'll match 4.5 and then the contract comes out and you're just kind of like,
that's why you have an agent for. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's what you have representation for. Like,
and
so he's like, I'm not gonna be naive and say he didn't like know what was going on, but like that's what you have representation for. Like his representation, U of H, like talking numbers and all that stuff. So it's a smooth process. Like once the guy, like, I'm not gonna say he had no knowledge. I'm not naive. I was not born yesterday, in spite of some of my opinions sometimes, but like it was yeah, you're right, Bob. It was happening. I was just gonna point out, Dustin, something you said. I agree with every word you said, by the way. Don't disagree with any of it. I'm just gonna point out that Tulane took Georgia Southern's head coach before he got to appear in their first ever bowl game.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
it's the circle. I'm not, and again, that does not negate any of the bad stuff and doesn't negate that I feel a little bit bad that it happened to a program that I don't really have any ill will towards, and really admired like the come up they had under Willie Fritz, the consistent goodness that I don't think any of us ever expected Tulane to ever reach in football at any point that we shared a conference with them, that they were a better team than us by the last 2 seasons, considering U of H's history and resourcing in Tulane's. It's remarkable. It's why we were so damn excited to get Willie Fritz in here in the first place. And yeah, like what really can you say about press conference? Like he said the right things, gave us a really fantastic, very clippable "Go Cougs" that you might hear at some point. That was really cool. Like I don't know, no one knows what the next several years is going to truly hold for any of us, but that was a good first thing to go to the podium, kind of like smiling, taking it in, clearly very much enjoying the moment. Go Cougs! I did a bad. That was not my actual impression, but I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was a cool little moment, and like if it was starting the tenure with good vibes, which I mean, hard not to. I do remember I think I was actually flying back from Chicago to Houston. I was like in my car listening to the Major Apple introductory press conference. I was just like, I'm not gonna judge this guy on this, but like I didn't like leave the car like, oh man, I'm so fired up. This guy, I was pretty fired up in Willie Fritz. So like I think I was listening to about 75% of the press conference from the online feed, and I was pretty fired up when he was done there. It was pretty cool.
And just to go back kind of off how did you feel after the press conference? You didn't feel you were excited because you got Holgerson and you got a guy who wanted to be here and this kind of stuff, but you weren't like, oh my God, I'm ready to run through a wall, and we got the clip that played on the pod for a really long time. Very nonchalant. Y'all want to go win some games? Let's go win some games. And you're just kind of, there's something about the Fritz one that was, that, like you said, Sam, you just kind of had you felt good after watching it.
Yeah, a lot of things that I liked from the presser. Again, it's a press conference. It doesn't really gain you anything, but
right.
I agree that the last 2 haven't felt the way this one felt, and there's maybe nothing to that. I was amused by Tillman Fertitta saying repeatedly that Houston didn't have to settle in this coaching search, that they got their first choice. I think Pesman kind of emphasized that as well. Maybe felt like a little bit of the dig at A&M. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like imagining that, but I don't know. I like that it played that way, maybe even if it wasn't intentional. But I think it's true. Like it's also, it plays well because it's true. It's very easy to believe that he was Houston's first choice. He was, I know, me and Bobby's first. I think Sammy's kind of 1A for you. He was the most popular pick in the poll of the fan base that we did. He's a pick that's being pretty universally praised around the country. It's exciting that we got the guy. My other favorite Tillman Fertitta thing was saying that he thought that Fritz was going to be the adult in the room, which definitely felt like a dig at his departing buddy.
It's weird because like less than a month later he was on the record being like, "No, I don't think it's important he makes a bowl game. No, I think we're doing right."
Yeah, you're
right. It definitely felt like a dig at Dana.
Yeah,
it felt like a little bit of a dig. That combined with Pesman making a real big heavy emphasis when he was talking about the alignment within the university, the alignment between him and Couture and Tillman, felt like very much like they were trying to get out in front of the idea that Tillman is mad that they fired his friend. And, it felt like they were very much trying to put on a united face. And I think successfully. And I think, I don't know. I believe that Tillman Fertitta is excited about having Coach Fritz here and thinks he's going to be a winning coach. And maybe on some level knows that ship had kind of sailed with Dana. Dr. Couture never always wanted to publicly put high expectations on coaches. Rightly pointed out that Fritz is inheriting the best Cougar coaching job probably that ever any Cougar coach has inherited. both in terms of the overall profile of the university being as high as it's ever been, the profile of the athletics department being as high as it's ever been, Houston being a Big 12 football program, drops not one but two fire in the bellies, which always, that gave me Dr. Couture bingo, so I was excited about that. But then, yeah, and then in terms of, Coach Fritz himself, really liked him mentioning all the places that he'd been, making the comment about, some people being born on third base and thinking they hit a triple. And he is correct in pointing out that he is someone that had to work his way around the bases one by one. And the idea of him really thinking of Houston as his, home run job was pretty cool, as that was a line that played well. The line about wanting the team to play as hard as Kelvin Sampson's teams play was a crowd pleaser. Recruit, retain, develop. That one I think got a lot of and like these things work, right? Because he's proven that he can do these things, right? That's why the press conference felt like a winner to me, because when he's saying this stuff, when he's saying recruit, retain, develop, I know that he's done that at every step, at every stop.
Yeah.
He's done that, When he says, I want to
Not
build
just lip service.
Yeah, exactly. When he says, I want to build something sustainable here, that's what he's done at every other job he's had, It's nice to say, I want my guys to play as hard as Kelvin Sampson's guys. It's another thing to have a track record of guys, more or less doing that for him. So, to me, that's the reason why Willie Fritz wins the press conference, because of something I said in the last episode, that he's a hire that you don't have to talk yourself into.
Two things he said at the conference, I think press conference really caught my eye. The first one being that he noted specifically how much of a draw it was to be coming to this program with the now under construction team facility. He said something to the effect of that he had been places where they talked about, speaking of digs, kind of felt like a dig at his former employer, which does not have or a concrete plan for a football facility, and just talked the facility up and how really important that was, and doesn't totally explain why he took the U of H job. But I mean, that is a big appealing thing, to have this good standalone team facility that makes you competitive with all the teams there now in your new conference, along with the stadium, along with the practice bubble that they or not bubble, but practice stand facility that they put after Herman was here. All that combines to really make this a Big 12 level program that could be against other Big 12 level programs. And I also, and again, he said 100% of the right things that you would want to say, a coach to say about NIL when the topic came up. Said he'd personally be involved with it, which I think is somewhat of a departure from the last staff, who weren't anti-NIL, I think either explicitly or implicitly, but you didn't just see any clear vision or a fan giving mechanism for football and for NIL. You hear them every so often, we're doing a deal with X. And it's just like, okay, but how can I, Joe fan and season ticket holder, contribute like, I don't know, man, like $250 this season towards the UH NIL effort? Who knows? Certainly didn't have anything to do with the fact that the head coach's son was installed into a position he wasn't qualified for, but we'll just leave that topic there to the side. It was just fun, guys, to have a Cougar football moment that felt really good, because
we haven't had those in a year or two.
Yeah, literally have not had very when was the last one? Like, besides like Dana getting fired, the Birmingham Bowl,
the Birmingham Bowl's
the press conference before the OU game in 2019,
beating West Virginia on a Hail Mary for our first.
That's pretty fun. UTSA game in 2022.
Beating Baylor was nice. That was fun. For that. But like, in terms of, oh my God, I feel excited about this program. I feel excited about what I'm seeing. I feel excited for not just this moment, but I feel excited for where this program is headed, or, in anything like that. We haven't, right? Our wins this year in the Big 12, West Virginia, to your point, Dustin, felt awesome, and it was great. And it was a moment Sam and I jumped out of the seat while I was in Vegas and celebrated like we won the Super Bowl, or, and it was great. But really, come Tuesday, you were like, oh shit, we got another game. Like, oh man, we got to play another one. And
we're
like
39 points to West Virginia, and we're about to play UT.
Yeah, it's like, oh God. Yeah, this isn't going to be fun, is it? Like, and it wasn't ever a thing where you were just like, yes, I'm excited about this. I think we're going to come out. Like, we haven't had that feeling in a really long time.
Yeah, I mean, the only other football thing I want to talk about before we get, too into it is just a little bit about the transfer portal, which is now opened.
I was gonna say, can I note the staff stuff real quick?
I was gonna say the staff budget.
Also, you talk about that too. I was just gonna mention, Bobby, you can do that too. But not that it was basically expected. His son Wes Fritz, who is the director of player personnel at Tulane, will be joining U of H in a similar identical role. And you hear like coach's son, and you maybe heard me 3 minutes ago make a dig about a previous coach's son. Wes Fritz was super highly regarded on the Tulane program that was as good as any in the country at finding overlooked talent in an era where finding overlooked talent is so hard because like the recruiting industrial complex is just so massive. Even a 2-star, you're going to have a lot of film on this guy, like even lower level prospects. And Tulane just did a great job finding guys who get into school there and turn to good football players. Also, his director of football ops there, Shane Meyer, will be joining the same job at U of H as well. Won the 2022 Football Scoop Award for Operations Guy of the Year. And I think I think that's all the staff stuff that's official. I mean, we'll note we're recording this a little bit before 8 on Tuesday evening. These things are generally pretty fluid, so there might be some staff additions between now and when you listen to the show. That's all I had for that, Bobby. What were you gonna add?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention a couple of more things on contract, that kind of stuff. Thought it was interesting that while we don't know the official buyout, Houston paying the buyout up to $1 million to Tulane. When you compare that versus Trailers is, that's $6 million.
Oh yeah,
we can try and pretend that didn't play a role, but that absolutely played a role.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly what the breakdown was there, but they did not leave Willie Fritz on the hook for $6 million of that buyout. If we paid one, we probably paid most of it, because that's usually what happens. The school pays most or all of it.
And it was up to $1 million. So I
mean, that's an insanely low buyout for someone who's done as much as Fritz did. Like I feel for Tulane on that one.
Yeah, and then when you come back and you look at it, up to $1 million, the difference between Trailer and Fritz's buyout, if you say Fritz's is $1 million, is $6 million. What's that staff budget? The staff salary for assistants, $6.75 million. So just in the buyout savings, you're getting your salary pool for your assistant coaches right there. You just got to tack on an extra $750,000 just in savings on the buyout. So that right there is going to be a really, really, really high amount of dollars for an assistant pool. We're going to be able to get a lot of high quality assistants in here. I didn't see what it stacked up to against fellow Big 12 members, but I know that the 6.75 is going to be up there for your assistant. So Fritz is going to be able to bring in whatever coordinators he wants to with that budget for the most part.
He's got way more than he had to work with at Tulane in terms of an assistant pool, which again, one of many reasons why he's in this job and not still at Tulane.
Yeah, and that 6.75 really shows we're ready to play with the big dogs. We're no longer we're going to be a low tier school that is hoping to get a diamond in the rough when it comes to coordinators and things like that. We're going to get some of the really good names out there.
Yeah, as much as, I think it's easy for everyone to get, and again, we'll put up, probably all three of us will put up our hands as well. It's easy to take digs at the administration and stuff, but I mean, in everything that they're doing right now, they fired the guy that they needed to fire, they hired the guy they needed to hire, they're doing facilities wise everything they need to do to compete with the Big 12, they're doing assistant staff pool wise everything they need to do to compete in the Big 12. You really, it's hard to pick nits with the way that the administration has handled the last year or two in terms of the transition to the new conference.
Yeah, I'll put my hands here quickly. I didn't think Chris Pesman, who very much, every bit of reporting around this really makes it seem like Chris Pesman was a driving force in this change. He wasn't just sitting back seat while he was a big part of this change. And I didn't think the guy had it in it. And I've, I think, spoken pretty sharply about the job he's done. And I will eat my words there. I think the job him and all the UH higher ups did with this, bang up. I totally agree with you, Dustin. I don't think they've made a wrong step since they fired Dana Holgerson.
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, also just going back to the press conference one more time was, I thought another cool moment was Willie Fritz talking about how he's like, man, he was, every time I talk to Chris Pesman, I get more excited about this school. I learn more about the school because he loves the school and he always wants to talk about it. And it's just like, oh yeah, this is a guy who is just absolutely loves being the athletic director at his school and has that. We'll use it one more time. He has that Dr. Couture fire in the belly, I think, for sure. But yeah, I do want to mention just kind of, the next big thing for Willie Fritz, in addition to getting his staff together, the transfer portal, which is now open. U of H has had, as of recording, now up to 4 scholarship. We'll call Darton Collins scholarship because he was going on next year. 4 scholarship players in the portal in defensive back Moses Alexander, wide receiver Dalton Carnes, offensive lineman Ruben Uniji. And linebacker Chris Pearson. So in terms of what to expect from the portal, I think some interesting context. Last year, the P5 school with the fewest transfers out during the portal season was Oregon State, who had 7. And even if you remove Colorado from the data set, there are more P5 schools that had 30 plus outgoing transfers than had less than 10. So that's the line. And also, every year the number of portal entrants goes up across the country. And the first couple days of the portal, the numbers are indicating that is going to be the case once again this year, that the overall number goes up. So, I mean, Coach Fritz said during the presser that he didn't, that he was one of the best in the country in terms of not having a lot of outgoing transfers when he was at Tulane. The numbers bear that out. And I think the early returns from what the current players have said from about their first meeting with them and broadly their feeling seems to be quite positive. So I think that's good. But I think you should still expect to see Houston having a number of outgoing transfers. It is probably in the teens at least when it's all said and done.
Especially with the coaching change, that average number is way higher.
Exactly.
Yeah, the fact that it's not where I would expect it to be when you lose your head coach. And I know it was a week ago that we lost our head coach, but you'd have to imagine that you would have seen more than this. But that being said, meetings probably haven't happened that need to happen with
Sure.
receiver groups and with guys on scholarship. So yeah.
I guess my last point there was just kind of, for me, in terms of how I'm evaluating Fritz's success in the portal this offseason, it's a combination of, bringing in players, especially ones that probably don't play wide receiver or running back, where we actually have a decent amount of talent already, other positions maybe especially, but I think across the board, I don't think you turn anyone away at any position necessarily, but bringing in players who look like they can make an immediate impact. And then on the other hand, we had a little text message chain going and, came up with 16 guys that are on the roster. I go, I would be at least somewhat sad if those guys go. So, I think A, it's how many impact players coming in, B, how many of those guys that actually look like, and again, not to say that there's not more than 16 players on the roster that I think can turn into good players or that the coaching staff should give a chance to, but there are some high level guys that, you just know, you go, okay, that those guys are actually going to hurt if they hit the door. Those guys I think really could flourish under a coach like Willie Fritz. So, but I think in terms of the total number of outgoing players that aren't on that list of 16 or so, I think that is a distant third concern to, who are you bringing in and how are you hopefully holding on to kind of the top of the line players on your roster.
It's not entirely finished or fleshed out, but look at kind of returning guys by position group. Guys, do you know how many offensive linemen we have, lineman or lineman? I'm not going to spoil it, that we have coming back who have multiple starts at U of H. This excludes Tank Jenkins, who I think theoretically...
Don't make me answer this.
Theoretically could have a 7. Excludes him. He could, I think they're going to put in a waiver for him to have another year. So if he comes back, then that adds 1 to it. But
is it just Tyler Johnson?
Is that your guess?
I don't think
it's my game show host game face.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody else besides Tyler Johnson. So
yeah,
Bobby.
I mean, no, I don't have.
You guys are correct. It is Tyler Johnson. That is the guy. That is the one returning guy who has multiple U of H starts if Tank Jenkins doesn't get an additional year of eligibility. So lineman, big portal need.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, we ready to move on and talk some Cougar volleyball, guys? Ending its season in the second round of the NCAA tournament.
Let's do it.
I guess so. Let's go.
All right. I mean, it's disappointing to see the season end, but I think ending on a very, other than the fact that every season that you don't win the national championship ends in a loss, but I think ended in a really positive, impressive way for this program. And that starts with the fact that they opened the NCAA tournament with a win against a very talented UCSB team. Cougs actually dropped the first set. It was close the whole way. But the Gauchos pulled away at the last second, won it 25-21. And then UCSB actually had a 23-22 lead in the second set. A very clear chance to go up 2-0 and put the Cougars in the corner. But that is when Kenna Sauer said, not today. She came up with 3 straight kills all by herself to close out the set for Houston. And I remember at the time being at home thinking, this feels eerily similar to Houston's previous match, their regular season finale against Kansas State. In that one, they didn't play real well in the first set. They lost it. They kind of scrapped and clawed and barely won the second set. And then they came out of intermission and just dominated sets 3 and 4 to get the win. And I remember thinking the intermission of the UCSB game, like, yeah, it's 1-1, but I think we got this. Even though we had scored at that point 2 fewer points, we were being out hit by a considerable percentage, but just kind of had the feeling that things were going to look very different in sets 3 and 4. And that is exactly what happened. The Cougs held the Gauchos in the third set to fewer kills than they had attack errors, which Houston won 25-16. And then in set 4, Houston fell behind early, but used a 7-0 run to take a big lead, and then held the Gauchos at arm's length the rest of the way, winning the set 25-18, winning the match 3-1. So just, second year in a row that you not only go to the NCAA tournament, but win a game at the NCAA tournament. And you won it with some huge performances by your stars. Kenna Sauer in this one, 18 kills, including the hugely important ones I mentioned. She also had 9 digs, 6 blocks, and 5 service aces. That's about as close as I remember seeing a Cougar volleyballer get to a triple or even a quadruple double, guys.
Yeah, that was great. It wasn't our most efficient game, but like when the player who had the next most service aces had 2, and when your opposing team has a grand total of 1, feels pretty significant when she does that. When you have someone serving like 5 service aces in 4 sets, if you don't have context to that number, that's fine. That is insane. That is so good. It's not a perfect parallel the first match I'm mentioning here, last year's opener, NCAA opener against South Dakota, was an extremely close match, and this was close at certain points. Like you said, Dustin, you were a couple points away from being down 2-0. You were very much back against the wall there, and even the 2 sets you won, like the Cougs did end up winning both of them convincingly, but those both started out pretty close. Neither of those was. I think even it was the third set, the Gauchos actually came out pretty strong. The Cougars, I think after they went up like 10-5, the Cougars controlled it from there. So you saw what we've seen all season, a team that's calm. But back to my original point there, you had that big game from Kennedy Warren in the opening round of last year. Again, not a perfect parallel, but I thought Nena Mbanu, like what she did, she was just so efficient that she gave you, outside of Abby Jackson and Kenna Sauer, an offensive player really doing stuff at a high level against the opponent. You needed it. And I thought was also really impressive from this one is UCSB came into this one as one of the very, very best teams, like top 5 in the nation, good at blocking at the net. And the Cougars outblocked them and never really, I think, let UCSB keep them from what they wanted to do offensively at the net. I thought that was very noticeable and very impressive. I mean, you hear UCSB and you think like, okay, like California mid-major school, like got in because they won the Big West. Like this was a really, really fucking good volleyball team on merit. They went 27-4. I was kind of like, I think we were annoyed, rightfully so. The Cougars had to go through Stanford to stay alive in the season. Even starting out with UCSB, it was crazy. That large team that won 27 of 31 games this year was a pretty brutal ask, and the Cougars made them look like a low conference, like auto qualifier team that just wasn't able to play on the same court as them, which I don't think very many teams have done to UCSB this year. I thought it was just a really, really impressive performance. It just showed that, what we saw in the subsequent match as well, this team is really playing their best volleyball this time. This was a team really built for these big moments of the postseason. And that was really cool to see, not just in the match we're about to talk about, but in the opening win against the Gauchos.
Yeah, I mean, you guys covered most of everything I have in my notes about UCSB, but just to kind of reiterate just your point, how good UCSB is. Like Sam said, you kind of see Santa Barbara, like who cares? Like we should blow them out. And it just isn't that way in volleyball, man. It's tough to go 27-4 in any conference, in any division, anything like that. And to come out and struggle a little bit, but just remain calm, again, to your point, Sam, and just show up and just know that you are the better team, and to just go out and show that you were the better team. And NCAA tournament matches aren't easy to win. We see it all the time in basketball, right? And in any kind of tournament situation, one match and you're out, single elimination. It's not
rough, yeah.
Anything could happen. You have a bad night. And so winning the first round isn't a given, and we did it.
Only other note I had, Morgan Yonda, really nice double-double, 19 assists and 13 digs to tie with Kate Georgiadis for the team lead there. If we're done with the serious UCSB on that analysis, I already made this joke to you, Dustin, but it really seems like UCSB chose their head coach by finding just the most California looking
he was
mid
just
30 guys lie. They saw him in the parking lot with a suspiciously clean 4x4 with a Namaste bumper sticker on. They're like, that's our man. This is the guy for the job. All right. That's it. I wanted to get all the actual.
I disagree.
Real...
I thought he looked more like a guy who has definitely top down Jeep, like no top Jeep, and wind blowing in his hair. That's the vibe I got. Not 4x4 in that sense. I got top down Jeep.
Jeep is a 4x4.
No, I know, but I'm just like top down, just not clean. You said clean 4x4, like.
Because all guys like that in Cal are like want to be like, yeah, I got a Jeep. I'm a real outdoorsy. I've got 3 national parks to again, will not get sidetracked. But I see. We're
so already sidetracked, Sam. We're already sidetracked.
I'm right there. I see so many just
I get
Jeep with a California license plate and 2 to 3 national park stickers and a Namaste sticker on. I'm just I know the kind of guy that's driving
one of the
Jeep.
coexist stickers.
Coexist, and I know the kind of guy it is, and he's the guy who's coaching the UCSB volleyball team. All right,
we're good.
I'll take us out of this ditch. Sorry.
All right, if I can steer us back towards some
all right, we're back on volleyball. We're back on the road.
No, I just do want to mention Abby Jackson this one after missing the previous game because she was dinged up a little bit. 16 kills, 11 digs, hit a remarkable 353. You mentioned Neno and Banu, Sam. 12 kills and 0 attack errors. I don't remember the last time I saw a player in double-digit kills with 0 attack errors. And then both your setters, Annie Cook and Morgan Yonda, lead in this offense that hit 241 against the defense that, like you said, was one of the tops in the country in terms of blocks. They had their conference libero of the year. They were holding opponents to I think it was a 164 hit percentage on the year. So. Really, really impressive overall performance by I think everyone in this offense and everyone in this team in their opening round win.
Yep.
And then the Cougars, as we mentioned, were rewarded for that opening round win with the second round matchup against the number 1 seed, the number 2 ranked team in the country, the team that swept Houston in the Sweet 16 last year, the Stanford Cardinal. And this one started out, in the first set. I don't want to say that Houston didn't make some great plays because they did, but it just looked like there was a very significant talent gap between the two teams in that first set. And just kind of like we've seen with this team sometimes when they face that just elite tier of opponent is that they stay with them for a while, but eventually the other team just puts on a run that Houston can't stop or counter. The Cardinal had a 5-0 and a 6-0 run in the first set and won the set 25-15. And the second set looked different though. Stanford still would end up winning it 25-20, but Houston made them really scrape out the set. There was no kill shot run. It wasn't over until it was actually over. And that was a noticeable step in the right direction. And what do we see? Third match in a row, Cougars coming out of the intermission, just playing like a team possessed, playing with a team that knew, like a team that knew that its back was against the wall, that its season was on the line. Third set was nip tuck early. Houston trailed 9-8 and then went on a 13-4 run to take a big 9-point lead, 21-12 in this one. The Cardinal did make a run to put a bit of a scare into the Cougs, but they were able to close out the set 25-22. And then, Stanford opens the fourth set with the first 3 points. And I remember thinking dang, we poked the bear by winning the set. That was fun. That was fun. This is where they step on us. And that just could not have been further from the reality of what was about to happen, because the Cougars scored the next 4 points. They made it a back and forth thing until Houston, trailing 10-8, went on a 5-0 run to take a 13-10 lead. And the 13-10 lead just didn't feel all that safe against a team as good as Stanford. But lo and behold, we saw Houston do exactly what they've done against so many not number 2 in the country teams, which is they just held them at arm's length. They just traded 1s and 2s with them back and forth. They never really extended the lead by a lot, but they never let Stanford get all the way back tied up. The Cougs would end up winning a second straight set by a 25-22 score to send it to an all-important, all-deciding 5th set. And in that 5th set, the Cougs were able to hang for a bit early. They was tied 5-5. But this time it was the Cardinal that found that 6-0 kill shot run to take a big lead, win the set 15-7, and end Houston's season for the second year in a row in the NCAA tournament. And, I as a fan, I went through so many emotions watching this game. My partner was out of town for work. I was at home watching it by myself, just living and dying with every point, a lot of yelling, a lot of pacing, a lot of, just in ways I would have maybe constrained myself if someone else was there, just kind of was fully living it. And, when it ended, it was such an unbelievable mix of emotions of just being so unbelievably proud of how the team for how well they played, of being sad that their season was over, of being, just kind of happy that this group of graduating seniors is going to always get to look back at their last collegiate match and know it was just an absolute banger against a great team where they played their asses off. And just also feeling the sense of loss that, I'll never again get to watch Abby Jackson, Rachel Tullis, Morgan Yonda, Kenna Sauer, Nana Mbanu, and Brashana Brown compete in the Scarlet and Albino. But so there's a lot going on, but I think that the prevailing emotion I had was definitely, it was pride. I continue to be just so proud of the young women in this program for the hard work that they've put in this match, in the year that they had, and broadly, and just for the phenomenal foundation that they've built for this Cougar volleyball program.
I was watching this match 100% standing up for like the final, like I would say 2.5 sets. I think from about like the early part of the third set through like the point in the fifth set, we're honestly it's like, okay, like Stanford has found that other gear. Like it was really cool we got here, but we kind of know this match is gonna end here. Yeah, it was incredible. It was an absolute banger, like you said. And you could say what you want about no moral victories, and the only thing that counts is the winner, the loss, et cetera, et cetera. That match for me, that's in the pantheon, win or lose, of most exciting Cougar postseason, really Cougar contests of any kind.
Yeah.
Since I've been a fan of Cougar sports at large. I mean, you saw this team leave everything on the floor against one of the most storied and successful college volleyball programs out there in a true road environment. This is a team that went 19-1 in the Pac-12. This is a team that swept the eventual Big 12 champion Longhorns in Austin earlier this season. The only team that even took the Cardinal to 5 sets in conference play was top 10 Oregon, and they lost that match at Maples Pavilion. And again, this is in no way a slight on last year's team, but it was easy after those first 2 sets to start thinking that, okay, well, Stanford's going to do something that kind of looks like what they did last year, where the Cougars had their moments, but ultimately just couldn't do anything to finish off a set against one of the very best teams in the country. And it really was so demoralizing kind of those first 2 sets. And this was something I kind of noticed watching it live, but also like looking at the box score, putting my notes together for this. U of H made so few offensive mistakes in those first 2 sets and still lost them pretty convincingly. Like that was demoralizing to me as just a dude on the couch watching, much less like one of the athletes out there just being like, God, like there was this really great volley that the Cougars, the Cougars eventually won the point on that, right? I'm not misremembering it. Yeah. A really good, just long rally in the second set. And I think Dustin, you jokingly tweeted like, that's what it seems like it's taken to win a point here, like early on. Like the Cougars had to just do unbelievable stuff just to get the ball to bounce on the Stanford side without someone returning it. Like that's just the kind of freak talents that Stanford has really at every single position. Like I think we were texting out Bobby, like how do you coach against 6'5" and 6'6" like outside hitters that like really know what they're doing, like the Cardinal had. It was just very difficult, but the Cougars fought back. I think showed off their defensive prowess at times during that third and fourth sets, really slowing down that red hot Cardinal offensive attack, fought off late Stanford rallies, but like you said, Dustin kept the Cardinal at arm's length before kind of running out of the gas in that fifth set. But I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better final college match from Kenna Sauer, 24 kills while hitting, I think, a more than good enough 280 for the match. Abby Jackson closing her career on a high note with 15 kills. Morgan Yonda also in her final Cougar match with a team high 24 assists. Guys, just consider where we were 5 years ago. This program was bottom third of the American, was going on almost 2 decades without making the NCAA postseason. To be sitting here talking with you guys tonight about a team that made its second straight postseason comfortably as an at-large and spent most of the last 2 seasons in the top 25, won an American title on the way out, pushed Stanford to the brink on their court. It's almost unbelievable. And it is kind of sad. Like you said, Dustin, is the last time I'll ever watch Abby Jackson, Rachel Tullis, Kenna Sauer, Morgan Yonda, Brashana Brown, Nana Mbanu in Cougar uniforms, but at least they went out just with an unbelievable last match. Just like I said, literally on my feet for large stretches of that match. I don't know how you can call yourself a sports fan and not have found that match to be just a thrilling spectacle, if not a bit heartbreaking for those of us rooting for the Cougs.
Yeah, it was actually kind of funny. My wife works Sundays, and she was like, "All right, I'm going to bed," and I was like, "I'm staying up to watch to finish the game, obviously." And I peek over my shoulder, like I look back, and at the end of the third set, with about 6 points left to go for the Cougs, I kind of turn and look, and she's just standing at the couch, just watching the TV. And I'm like, I thought you were going to bed. And she was like, well, I will after this set. I want to see if we win this set. And then, and then we win. And so then it goes to 4 and I'm trying to like cheer a little quietly. And after the 4th set, after we win set 4, I walk into the bedroom and she's in there, she's trying to sleep, and I go, normally I try to be really quiet. Now I'm not going to be quiet for the 5th set. So if you're trying to go to sleep, just know that it's probably not happening right now. So I'm going to try, but it's probably not happening. And she goes, I get it. I understand. And so that was just kind of funny, just to kind of turn around and see her like, no, I'm here. We're watching this. So kind of funny there. But just I said a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was last episode, maybe it was 2 episodes ago, not last episode because we talked about Fritz, but last week's episode.
Last regular podcast.
Yeah. About how this team really seems to be defensive minded. This team does a good job of limiting opponents' hit percentage and things like that, and that turns into offense for us. If you watch that game, the way the Cougs got back into this game was simply through the blocks. Cougs were blocking a lot of shots at the net in set 3 and 4, and then, like you said, set 5, it just kind of seemed like the Cougs just kind of lost it there. They were getting blocked in the game. Kind of the script that had been followed in sets 3 and 4 just clearly wasn't going to happen there, and it just kind of had this air of inevitability. But at the end of the day, I texted you guys right after this, and I think I said it on Twitter, is that I don't think I've been this proud of a Houston Cougar team since the Final Four team. And that's not to say that I wasn't proud of many other Cougar teams that have accomplished a lot since that time. But man, just, you see the NCAA tournament and you go, oh, they made the Sweet 16 last year, and this year they made it to the round of 32. They got worse. And it's like, no. They had a bad draw, right? Kind of happens. When you're an at-large, you're kind of hoping that you get a good draw. You didn't get one here, and you took the team that eliminated you last year. Arguably, you can say that they're probably better this year than they were last year.
I think they were.
And you took them to 5. And you didn't just take them to 5 on a couple of fluky plays. You took them to 5 because you earned taking them to 5. And these seniors, like you guys said, have set the foundation and set this program up. You always want to take a program, and when you come in, you have to have a lot of faith when you come into a program that wasn't as good as U of H was at the time. And then to know that you want to come here and then to turn the program around and leave it in a better shape, not just a little bit, but by a ton than you did when you got there, is exactly what you're hoping for, right? This is the Rob Gray. This is of that class that just kind of got you there and set you up with a foundation that you can now build on.
Do want to just say, just, and also to kind of put in perspective, Houston making that game as close as it was, if you're comparing it to like men's basketball, where it's like, yeah, it's kind of rare for an 8 seed to like beat a 1 in the second round, but it happens every once in a while. Mm-hmm. Does not happen in basketball. So I was looking this up just now. The last 4 tournaments, including this one, the other 15 teams that faced a 1 seed in the second round, guess how many sets do you think those 15 teams combined won against all those 15 1 seeds?
I'm gonna say 7.
Oh, I was gonna go lower than that. I was gonna go like 3, 4.
You're both high. It's 2.
Wow.
Houston won as many sets against their 1 seed as all the other 15 teams to face a 1 seed over the last 4 years did combined in the second round.
Like, too shabby.
That is the scope of what Houston was facing. That is the scope of the almost upset that they pulled, but also that's the scope of what an incredible match they played, and just kind of reiterating how unbelievably proud we are all of the effort that they had there. Looking forward, we kind of talked about Cougar football being active in the portal, and really I expect the same thing with Cougar volleyball. We saw U of H assistant coach and recruiting coordinator Taylor Mikulski tweeted the day after the Stanford match, quote, "It's portal season." And we just said the Cougars just saw 3 of their 4 primary outside hitters went out of eligibility, 1 of their 2 primary middle blockers, 1 of their 2 primary setters, although that last one is, I guess an open question of if you want to stick with the 2-setter system or let any cook be the the full-time starter in her final year of eligibility. So
because she was the AAC setter of the year her true freshman year before Yanda got here. So more than capable of taking it on herself.
Absolutely.
Not that Yanda didn't make us better, obviously. Yeah.
Right. But like I said, there's certainly some awesome pieces to build around, even for all that you did lose. I think you've got one player who's a real proven winner at every position. You've got Annie Cook at setter, Kate Georgiadis at libero, Kellen Moore at middle blocker, Katie Corelli at outside hitter. But it takes more players than that to have a team. And maybe I think there's some players that are already on this roster that can step into bigger roles. We've seen, the staff tried to get, I think, Grace Wiley at outside hitter and Barakat Ramon at middle blocker are two players who the staff, I felt like was trying to find opportunities for, maybe because they believed that they were going to be stepping into bigger roles in the future. And, the staff has also talked about how recruiting is on the upswing. So maybe there's a freshman or two coming in that they think can make an impact right away. So I think it's not clear how many players the staff expects to target on the portal. We might not see a repeat of last year where we basically every significant player that left, we just kind of replaced with an equivalent player through the transfer portal. I think maybe that's not going to be exactly the case this time around. But the recruiting coordinator just tweeted it's portal season. You just grabbed, Morgan Yanda, Kenna Sauer, Nana Mbanu, Katie Corelli out of the portal the last couple of years. So I think it makes sense to expect the Cougs to look and try to pull an impact player or two or three out of the portal again this year.
I was gonna say it's nice that you also now have a season in the Big 12, this being a good Big 12 program, and that Kenna Sauer and Nana Mbana, just to use two recent examples, came, and not that you should exclusively do it with 1 year players. I'm not saying they will, but like you had two players come in as 1 year players, and in Mbana's case got to play a bigger role than she did at Louisville, be a key player on a team that was top 25 the entire season. And in Sauer's case, repeated as a first team all Big 12 selection, unlike her last 2 years at Tech, actually got to do it on a postseason team. So I think it's nice. Like, not that I think the staff needed it to get good players in here, proof positive. All the players we've just talked about, they're graduated, but it is nice to have that concrete thing to show prospective players here in the coming months as you're building a 2024 roster.
All right, moving right along to our two only sports pretty much that are in season at the moment, which is the basketball programs. We'll start with the men's team, which beat Xavier on the road 66-60 on Friday. Got their first road test of the year from a Musketeers team that counterpunched them pretty much every time Houston landed a blow. They did it in both halves. The Cougars took a 12-point lead in the first half. Xavier rallied, took a 1-point lead of their own. Houston counter rallied, went into the half up 5, went on a big run early in the second half, took a 13-point lead, only for Xavier to rally. Again, take a brief, I think just 1-point lead, only for then the Cougars to then counter rally once more and end up winning this one by 6 points. And, I feel a little bit bad about going down this rabbit hole this early, but I think you kind of have to mention when talking about the game, a big part of Xavier's second half rally was the fact that Jamal Shed picked up his 4th foul with 13 minutes and 46 seconds left on the clock on just an absolute dog shit call. I'm going to try real hard to avoid going too long on this subject. But just this call in particular demands attention because it was so impactful, missed over 7 minutes of game time during which time Xavier rallied to tie, and missed it because of such a bad call. Jamal went up and grabbed an offensive rebound, made minimal to no contact with anybody near him, just completely inexplicable phantom call. Kelvin Sampson doesn't get teed up all that often, but he got teed up after this one. And I think that was partly because the calls had been so one-sided the entire second half up until that point. I think it was like 8 or 9 to 2 team fouls were about at the point when Jamal picked up that foul. But also because that one call in particular should go in the Hall of Fame for awful and inexplicable college basketball calls if there were such a Hall of Fame. So, I don't think there are too many coaches that would have let that one slide without speaking their mind. But, more importantly, I guess in the officiating, was just the Cougs got some big performances though, right? LJ Cryer, 23 points, shot really, really well. Only 1 turnover. Wani was huge too, 9 points and 12 boards, including 5 on the offensive end. So, proud of this team for the way they fought in a road environment, their first road team of the year. But man, it is a bummer that just, that there's like 3 or 4 games out of a college basketball season, at least, that you're going to walk away from going, holy crap, that officiating crew was so bad. You never want the officiating crew to be the story of the game, but they made themselves part of the story of this game.
49 fouls. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
Oh, God.
49 fouls. And I mean, like, Xavier had bad calls on them too. Like, I will agree, Dustin, at that point that you were specifically noting U of H was definitely getting the worst of it in the first part of the second half. But like, and ultimately, if U of H loses this game, we could talk about how bad the officiating was, but we'd probably be pointing to, okay, well, these are some things the Cougars could have done better to win this game. I just think they were noting it because they made the basketball experience that much worse. Our friend Ryan at Go Cougs likes to always note this, and it is just so uncanny how many times. I think
It's
you
crazy.
guys know where I'm going with this. Like how like this crew, and like two of the guys in this crew are rated like top 15 by Ken Palm, who just, like, again, like, I'm not saying Ken Palm is right about everything infallibly, but like somebody who has as much college basketball data out there rates Kip Kissinger and one of the other guys like really highly, and agree with you, does just dog shit. It just made the game worse for all concerned, even if the Cougars were a beneficiary of it at times. I would say also, if you're a Cougar fan who, and I'm not saying this is a common opinion or anything like that, if the Cougs didn't win it with enough style points for your liking, we'll just note that Purdue and Marquette on Friday night would have loved to have gotten ugly road wins over unranked teams. Like, there's, when you win on the road, your first time on the road, you take it and you just try to build from it. Like, I think a Duke lost on Saturday too to a Georgia Tech team that had been pretty terrible.
Hell, Xavier would like to get an ugly home win.
Yeah, right.
Not to say anything else there, but
no, I mean, it's no, well, it didn't do so hot tonight as it records. But road wins can be hard even against middling teams, because if you're a perennial top 10 team like U of H is now, you're getting the best crowd possible, you're getting the best opposing player effort, all that stuff. And I think even though they haven't had the easiest start, I think Xavier will end up being better than this kind of lousy last couple weeks they have. Like Sean Miller is too good of a coach for this team to be one of the worst in the Big East. That's just my prediction there. Two quick asides, guys, that are related to this game, but not about the actual game itself, if you don't mind. Still pinching myself, first one, that we are part of something like the Big 12 Big East Challenge.
I love it. It's so awesome.
I think we're all, to varying degrees, enough of general college basketball fans that you've watched a fair amount of over the years of Big 12 Big East or Big 12 SEC Challenge or something.
I think I may have mentioned it even in the preview when we were talking about like who are you looking forward to, and I said Xavier, because guys, we get to participate in one of these. Like,
yeah, exactly,
we get to do this. Like, it's cool.
Yeah, we get to see Cougar men's basketball, a program that's been a premier hoops program for many years now, get to play in a premier event like this one, get to play eventually later this year in a premier conference like the Big 12. And for my second point, even though this isn't totally new, but it was something I thought about a lot when we played at Virginia last year, and it was basically filled to the rafters there in Charlottesville. This isn't just a very good U of H team. It's a very good program that's done so well that we are now a name opponent, even on very good opponents' schedules. Like people camp out to watch the same U of H team, Dustin, that I 10 years ago went over to your house to watch in the CBI on, I believe, Stadium. Like, yeah, that's how far this program has come. That we are not just a good college basketball program, that we are a name college basketball program that is every bit living up to the name. We'll just say about the game, I think we all knew after that 16-4 start to the game that wasn't going to last. It wasn't going to be that easy to win this one. And Xavier got back into it thanks to the first of the 2 5+ minute offensive dry spells for the Cougs. And it wasn't fun to experience in real time, but I think in hindsight, it's kind of remarkable that U of H beat this opponent, led for nearly the entire game by some margin, while going scoreless for over 10 of the 40 minutes of this game. Not like shotless, like you're still getting occasional free throws, scoreless. We're not doing anything that put the ball in the basket for points for you for like long stretches of this game. Large part of that, Dustin, especially with the second one, not having Jamal Shed because of his fourth foul. But again, and I think also we'll note that I'm going to put my neck out here and say this. I think this could absolutely be Kelvin Sampson's best defensive team among many, many really good ones that we've been fortunate enough to watch here at the University of Houston. And it would be, I think, foolish to attribute it to one guy. It's a team effort, but I really do think the improvements we've seen from Xavier Francis are a really, really big reason why. He didn't do a lot offensively in this game, and we've talked about our dissatisfaction with the officiating in this contest, but it shows how much he's improved as a player, in the offseason up to now, that on the road against a solid opponent, and will certainly be on the higher end of whistle-happy officials we see this year, you still got 23 minutes out of Xavier Francis and had him on the floor, I think, in the, the most consequential last 5 minutes of the game. You finally put some cushion between you and Xavier. I think it's not a coincidence that Xavier Francis checked in with about 5 minutes to go, and Xavier went on a real dry spell that I think allowed the Cougars to permanently put this one out of reach. So I think that's just some of the early stuff that really excited me from this basketball game.
Yeah, just a couple of little points there. Wani going 9 and 12, 9 points, 12 rebounds. Look, Wani getting you every night or something like this. If I would have told you guys 2 years ago, Wani Roberts, or even before the start of last year, you'd have been like, double guy. I don't know. He'll get us the rebounds and he'll play some really solid defense. But just really happy to see that out of Wani on a night-to-night basis, on a consistent basis this year. And then just a couple of, not that I want to poo-poo all over this win. And I think it had to do with the foul trouble and the whistle happy refs. Cryer and Sharp playing 38 and 36 minutes. It's still pretty early in the season. You know, you kind of want to hope that when you get a little bit closer to March that you haven't wore those guys out too much early in the season against Xavier. And you want to make sure they're ready for Big 12 play. So again, probably can attest that to Shed needing to take an extended break and things like that. But just something kind of to look out for going forward in the season.
Yeah, I said in the preview, turnovers and rebounds were the two areas where Xavier was kind of only like decent to good and not great. But, you know, I think they kind of did enough to not let Houston really dominate those areas. Houston was +5 in turnovers, +4 in points off turnovers. So not bad, but not a, game dominating number. And then the Musketeers actually grabbed one more offensive rebound than the Cougars. But crucially, Houston did more with those offensive rebounds because they were +12 in second chance points. So, I think neither area necessarily looks huge on its own, but I think, if you add the plus turnovers and second chance points, that's a +16 for Houston in a game they won by 6. So I think definitely an area where Houston did kind of win the game, even if they didn't maybe traditionally dominate in either facet the way we have seen them do at times. And then, the only other thing, Xavier having 17 fast break points in this one, most of those in the first half was something that nobody else had really been able to do to the Cougars previously. So, in terms of things that Kelvin Sampson is going to want to see improvement on out of this one, I think that's probably a big one. But, I've said it often on this podcast. I'll say it once again. The very best thing in the world is to be talking about, there are definitely some things that the team learned from this game that they can improve on from this game after a road win. Because like you said, Sam, number 1, number 3, number 7 in the AP poll all lost road games to unranked teams of a similar stature to Xavier this weekend. So, I know some of the shine comes off the win because they lost to Oakland before this. They lost to Delaware tonight. But, this is still a team that I think it's going to be, like I said, they're going to win some games in the Big East. I still think it'll show up as at least a relatively nice win at the end of the year. So glad to see the Cougars pass the road test for sure.
I was just going to say, didn't love starting 6 of 13 from the free throw line. Did love going 11 of 12 down the stretch.
Yep.
Like, that was nice. And I think I will still double down, even though this wasn't for a full game, a very good free throw shooting performance. I still think this team is going to be a better free throw shooting team when it's all said and done this year. Will they be an excellent one? No. But I don't think this team's going to shoot like 63% or whatever the season average is right now for the full season. There too many guys like Damian Dunn, who was only 3 of 6, and someone who shot over 80% while going to the line a lot his last 2 years at Temple. Jamal Shed, Emmanuel Sharp. I think all those guys will be good. There's Wani Roberts went 3 of 4 from the charity stripe. Like a lot. And again, Xavier, who I sang the praises of, rightfully so, because I think he was a really good defensive difference maker in this. Did go 0 for 3, but that's a little more understandable. You're like, okay, anytime Xavier gets the free throw on, you're like, okay, it'd be nice if this one, it would be a nice little bonus, a nice little treat if this goes in, but I'm not really, expecting. But Wani's actually, like, knock on wood, he actually made himself like decent compared to, I think, what we expected with the charity stripe. So I think that'll get better. It was nice when the Cougars were trying to close out this game, that the team clearly shot their best at the free throw line, I think, this entire season, really.
Looking forward, the Cougars get a pair of games this week. At home, Rice on Wednesday, Jackson State on Saturday, a pair of games that are unlikely to tell us much about this team, you would think. These look like maybe the 2 worst teams remaining on Houston's schedule. I think winning either of these by less than 20 would probably be a surprise. To be clear, that doesn't mean you shouldn't get your butt to the Fertitta Center if at all possible, both to support your team.
I'll be there.
There you go, to support your men's basketball team, one, but then also you get a chance to see Willie Fritz introduce on Wednesday. And then, likely there's going to be a large number of recruits at the Saturday game football recruits for Coach Fritz's first recruiting weekend. So we definitely want a full house for that one. But, in terms of opponents, and starting with tomorrow night's opponent, the Rice Owls, they're 2-5 against D1 competition. They open their season with consecutive losses to Harvard, Texas State, Indiana State, New Mexico, and Rip'em Eaters, the UC Irvine Anteaters, before rebounding with wins over Tennessee Martin and Houston Christian in their last 2 games. And I think maybe the nicest thing you can say about Rice is they don't maybe have any.
They're getting a great education.
Yeah, they'll give you a great education. They maybe don't have any terrible losses, right? Harvard is ranked 147. Their other 4 losses are all against teams ranked 76 or better. But I think maybe the most damning thing you can say is that, their 2 wins are exactly as unimpressive as they sound over Tennessee Martin and Houston Christian, just deeply bad teams. And even if most of your losses are against pretty decent teams, they also lost all 5 of those games by at least 13 points. And frankly, they looked awful defensively. They looked very easy to make shots against. They're not forcing turnovers. So, offensively, they're a little better. There's some guys who can probably talk about here, but yeah, I think your overall top level thing is that this team does not play defense well and does not look very good.
I've almost that exact note that they didn't skimp on tough opponents early, but you only get so much credit when none of those games were like terribly competitive. Yeah, like you were saying, Dustin, bottom 100 nationally in both opponent 2-point and 3-point field goal percentage. You figure you'd be like at least decent one of them. Nope, you were not decent at either of them. Rice has been really only good at 2 things this year: taking care of the basketball, they don't turn it over a ton, preventing opponents from grabbing offensive rebounds, which, I mean, to be fair, is something fairly integral to what the Cougars do, but I think U of H is in a different weight class than even, I think, a pretty solid non-conference slate of teams that Rice has played so far. Guys, real quick, since we're just doing a lot of asking each other random questions this one, do you know how many times Rice basketball in the last 10 seasons has finished with an above 500 record in conference?
In conference,
that's it. Last 10 years,
twice.
How many times?
Twice.
Bobby's guessing twice. What are you, Dustin?
I'll say once, even though I feel like it might be 0.
It is once. It was exactly once. And the coach immediately...
I thought once was the answer, but I was like, that's too obvious.
Once. And the coach immediately left and took the VCU head coaching job, Mike Rhodes, who's actually now at Penn State.
Nice.
Afterwards. He knew he had to, like, the getting was good. He was just like, got to get out of here while my stock is still high. Acknowledging this is a hard job. This program hasn't been to the NCAA since 1970. The last coach who went to the Rice men's basketball Wikipedia page, if you can't tell, the last coach to lead Rice with a winning record left in 1959.
Wow.
Just like,
it's not great, guys.
Even with that, I'm still surprised they gave their head coach Scott Pera a 7th year. I mean, at some point, even acknowledging the job is hard, the guy has to come somewhat close to producing a winning record in Conference USA. Now you're moving up to the American. It just seems like a good time to just rip the Band-Aid off and just be like, all right, like we're going to be pretty outmatched by this league. Might as well do it with someone who didn't just have 6 like losing seasons in a row in Conference USA. What are you gonna say, Bobby?
They haven't fired their football coach who's done that. So just throwing that out there. But all I want to add to the Rice game is my favorite Rice basketball story of all time. I
usually know which story you're telling, so I'm
it's
curious.
It's going to be a little bit of a tangent, but it's my favorite Rice basketball story of all time. The 3 of us went to a U of H volleyball game versus Rice, and we're walking out. U of H. I don't even remember if U of H won the volleyball game. It's not important to the story. It's not important to the story. So we're walking out, and this may have been like 20.
This is 2009. This is 2009. I'm pretty confident.
So we're walking out of the arena. We're walking out of their basketball stadium, and they have their promotional posters, like their schedule posters. And Dustin is a couple of people ahead of Sam and I, and he sees it says Rice basketball. It's our time, and the R is in the Rice R. And Dustin turns around and I don't even know if he turns around, but he just goes, look, guys, it's their time. It's their time to win 2 games this year. 2 games.
5. It was 5. It was 5 games.
It was 4.
They went.
This is the 2007-08 season. They went 3-27. I looked this up.
That's right.
That's right.
He goes,
Those have been 08.
Their turn.
in Ofer in Conference USA. 0-16 in Conference USA. That's
the sad end of the Willis Wilson era.
And he's like, it's their turn. It's their turn to win 4, not 3, 4 basketball games. And Sam and I just go, that's cool, Dustin. Yeah, man, that's cool. Because behind us is probably 7 Rice basketball players. And we didn't want to die that night. And so Sam and I just left Dustin out to dry. We were just like, cool, man.
We're bad friends.
No,
and I was like, where are you guys
awesome.
going? And I turned around and there was just like 3 dudes that are all like 6'8" to 6'10". I turned back around and walked relatively swiftly in the other direction.
Because normally we would have yucked it up at that. There's very,
we
like,
very much the
red
record
meat
show.
like,
we would have gone complete. But I mean, I just will never. And Sam and I didn't even look at each other like, oh my God, can you believe Dustin's doing this? We both were like, I have no idea what he's talking about. Who is that guy? My name's not Bobby. That's not Sam. Who is he talking to? I have no idea.
To get us very briefly back on track, I just had a couple more interesting notes. Like Rice actually does have like a national top 150 freshman on this roster. Keanu Dawes, Houston area kid who Rice somehow talked into playing their basketball program. Don't know how. I mean, it is a great school, and he's done some good stuff in terms of rebounding and shot blocking, but he's had a really rough time in his first 7 Division I games putting the ball in the basket. I feel like because he's their starting power forward, going head to head with Wani Roberts is some real baptism by fire stuff
right.
for Trestman. And I'm on a couple of their guards who were returning starters from last year, Makai Mason and Travis Evie, who've both been pretty good at drawing fouls and getting the free throw line. But I mean, this one shouldn't be that close. I think we're all in agreement on that.
I've got one more nugget on this one though. Are you ready for this? This Virginia, something that just like jumped off the page to me as seeming out of place. 6'11" forward Max Fiedler is averaging over 5.5 assists per game.
Dump it in and just have the defense collapse and kick it out.
He is top 30 in the country in assists per game. At 6'11", no one else in the top 50 is taller than 6'6". No one else in the top 100 is taller than 6'7". The next most assists by anybody who's at least as tall as Fiedler is a dude who has like 4.1. He's tied for 129th in the country. Yeah, you do not see 6'11" guys in college averaging 5.5. I think it's 5.6 is the exact number of assists per game. But Max Fiedler is doing that right now. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. But overall, yeah, I don't think it's going to be too competitive of a game, probably.
I hope not.
You'd hope not, yeah.
You'd hope not. You also hope that the Jackson State game that follows it on Saturday is not too close. The Tigers are 2-6 on the year, including a pair of losses by 20-plus points to 200-plus ranked teams in San Diego and Tulsa, and also inexplicably a win over top 100 Missouri. So go figure. This will be the Tigers' 9th straight road game to open the season. And I think if Houston's going to have any trouble at all in this one, which I don't think they will, it has to start with senior guard Ken Evans. Scores over 20 points per game, has made fully half of his threes on the year, but also gets to the bucket, also gets to the line. He had 22 in that win over Missouri. Player 2 in the scouting report is forward Jordan O'Neal, averaging 10 points a game, had 18 in the win over Mizzou. Good shot blocker. But after those two, there's just not really anybody else on the roster that interests me even a little bit. And with all due respect to the Tigers for that win at Missouri, I don't know, it's hard for me to get too concerned about a Kelvin Sampson team facing a team with I think functionally 2 impact players.
I think they'll be an above average SWAC team this year. And I'm glad you mentioned Ken Evans because he's put up some really impressive numbers against what we'd expect the typical kind of SWAC taking a lot of like early season road bye games. Like he hasn't done that 18 of 36 against bad opponents. Had 33 in there, went over Arkansas State on the road recently, had 20 on 8 of 15 shooting. That win over Mizzou was really impactful in their opening night game against Memphis, where they lost by 17, but never really truly let the Tigers run away from them. Maybe probably Tiger fans would have hoped. So I think Evans versus this Cougar backcourt will be kind of interesting to watch. But yeah, I don't think Jackson State should seriously challenge this Cougar team.
Yeah, I mean, your scouting report looks like mine does. Top 2 guys, not a huge concern, like you said, Dustin, of a Kelvin Sampson team with guys who have with teams who have 2 targets that are going to beat you. We tend to do pretty good at shutting that down.
All right, moving right on to Cougar women's basketball, who unfortunately took their first loss of the year this past was I believe Wednesday when they faced Middle Tennessee State. Took a 70-45 home loss to the Blue Raiders. Never really got going after I guess they did get going. They had I think they were up one at the end of the first quarter, and then got doubled up or nearly doubled up each of the following three quarters. We called this Houston's first test of the year, and there's no two ways about it. Houston failed that test. Losing to a pretty good MTSU team isn't totally damning in and of itself, but losing by 25, playing that like one decent quarter of basketball and then getting hammered the rest of the way, that's an F, and I'll try not to follow. I will try to follow my own rules and not overreact and make grand pronouncements one way or the other about any team ever based on a one game sample size. But it's the frustrating thing is this is the one game you've played against a team with a pulse this year, and it kind of casts all those wins against all those other teams in a less favorable light when the one time you faced a not great, not top 25, just pretty good team. You lost at home by 25. And we've talked about wanting to see greater offensive efficiency this year. After shooting a decent percentage in the first quarter, the Cougars made exactly one quarter of their shots from the field in quarters 2, 3, and 4 to finish under 30% for the game. Houston is going to have lots of other tests. Houston could win enough games. Houston has plenty of games in front of them against good teams that they could win to make you forget this game. But in terms of trying to figure out what to think of this team early on, having that be your the result of your first test is discouraging for sure.
And I think if this team had won a close game or lost a close game that they mostly competed in, like we'd rather it be a win. But like I think you could go from that and be, okay, well, you played an NCAA tournament team, competed with them, et cetera, et cetera. You didn't after the second quarter. This was a close first quarter. The Cougars shot pretty well at the gate and then just completely fell off a cliff offensively. And like you, Dustin, I'm trying not to overreact to a sample size of one game here, but I don't know, man. It has me evaluating some of the things that I said about this team after the first several games before this one, because you looked really good offensively against very inferior competition and just completely fell off a cliff the first time you played anything close to a quality opponent. And again, it's only one game, but you looked as bad trying to score the ball in this one against a quality opponent as you did a year ago. I mean, honestly, worse, because you had a couple of close losses in non-conference last year to Florida and Florida State, where you weren't that far from winning either of those ones, and you were just so far from winning this one. It is almost comical to talk it all out. You only had 3 second chance points the entire game, got outscored 44-12 in the paint, allowed this opponent to make just over 62% of their 2-point field goals. I just don't have anything nice to say about this. I again, wouldn't have been all that upset if this was a competitive loss, because Middle Tennessee is perennially pretty good. Middle Tennessee was an NCAA team last season. I think has a pretty good chance to be right back there this season, but to not even compete for the majority of this game, I think is very disappointing. And it is deja vu all over again, guys, of the soccer season. And just like some encouraging, trying to suss out some encouraging results against not very good opponents, then bam, you get smacked the first time you play someone pretty good, which I think that's just where I am right now about this game.
Yeah, my big thing that I've said all year is, can this team score? And I was very, very excited when I saw the field goal percentage, against some of those weaker teams. I'm like, at least they're putting the ball in the basket. Like, yeah, they may be getting easier shots, but they're at least putting it in the basket. Shooting under 30% just is not going to 29.8% is just not, it's not going to win you any basketball games. Shooting 23% from three, not going to win you many basketball games, especially when you give up. One of the calling cards of this team is going to be its defense and its defensive efficiency and how often they're getting turnovers. They only got 20 this game, right? While turning the ball over 16 themselves. Letting the opponent shoot 52.6% from the field. You won't win a basketball game letting another team shoot 50%. It just doesn't, it doesn't matter how, unless your field goal percentage is 60%, you're not going to do it. You're just not going to. And then the other thing that really caught my eye is you look at Middle Tennessee State's free throws. They only made 37.5% of their free throws in the game. So it's not even like we were sending them to the line and they were getting cheap, easy points.
Like, could have been worse.
Yeah, it could have been worse. It should have been worse. They went 3 of 8 from the line. It's not great. It's not great. This could have very easily been a 30-point loss for the Cougs. And if this is your first test, like Dustin said, it's an F. And it's not even, you didn't like score 65 and fail. You are in like the 30s. This is a bad result.
Failing performance offensively and defensively, and you just can't get a lot worse than that. If
you're gonna fail, at least look good in one aspect, right? Maybe you hold them to 55 and you only score 45. It's like, well, at least our defense looked good. It didn't look good.
The Cougars followed that up with a win on Sunday against Florida A&M. 79-59 was the final score there. The Cougs jumped out to a big lead early, and the outcome of this one was never in doubt. And, in terms of things to like from this one, you saw transferred Peyton McFarland forward for the Cougars, had her breakout game as a Cougar, 21 points, 7 rebounds, strong game for the Cougars. So like I said, it's, even the 20-point final score was deceptive as to how close this one, because that was Florida A&M making a run at the end to even make it that close. So definitely a dominant win. You can't be mad about beating a team that thoroughly, but again, I'm not saying the season's over because we lost the MTSU game, but also beating Florida A&M by 20 also moves my needle back 0 in the other direction, because we just talked about, beating bad teams by a bunch doesn't mean anything unless you can go out and do it against the good teams too.
Shout out Peyton McFarland, career high 21 points for her in this one. But yeah, it's doesn't do anything for me when it's coming off us just getting killed by someone decent. Like you gotta earn my trust back, Cougar women's basketball. I know that's what's very important to this team right now, is winning back the trust of 1/3 of the Scott Home podcast. But that's where I am with this team. I'm not willing to believe until I see it against a team that actually like has a pulse this year, honestly.
Yeah, I've seen you beat bad teams. I haven't seen you look competitive against a good team yet.
Yeah, and I believe even after the Florida A&M game, that Coach Huey came out and said it was a subpar performance by his team. So I mean, it's not like we're saying anything that they don't know. Yeah, they don't know within the women's basketball program that they're not aware of and trying to address. So moving forward, the Cougs will have a couple of games in the coming week. They will have their first road game of the year on Friday, when they will be traveling to
Commerce, Texas.
Commerce, Texas, to face A&M Commerce, one of the newer Division I programs out there. Then they will be on Tuesday at 11 a.m. for some reason. They will be hosting Texas Southern. So it's, one of these is a road game, so that I guess is something. But these two teams are teams that Houston should beat. And again, as much as we're down on this team for the way they played in the MTSU game, these are still games you expect Houston to win, because they have at least done that. They've beaten bad teams this year. These teams are not that good. Just kind of one point of reference for A&M Commerce. They played in Lubbock against Texas Tech, a Texas Tech team that is, I think, 9-0, but hasn't really beaten anybody good. They're in the 50s of the net. I think probably expected to be a middling, not a bad, not a good, just probably a middling Big 12 team. Texas Tech doubled them up 91-45. Now again, that one was in Lubbock. This one, it will be in Commerce, as I mentioned. So maybe you expect them to be a little bit closer, but I think if you want to, even if you're trying to at least build up the good vibes by beating the bad teams, I think that's kind of where you don't expect them to double them up, but you expect this to be this to be not close. And then Texas Southern also 0-5 on the year, just getting thrashed. So these are two games that Houston should win, and win comfortably, I think, for sure.
I was gonna say, because I think Dusty hit all the points that I had, guys. Real quick, so a very, very random road trip here, Commerce. I want to ask each of you, do you have a favorite, just super random, we scheduled an out of conference scale road game there from your time as a Cougar fan, Bobby? I have mine. I just thought of this now.
I have one in mind. Yeah.
I can't think
it could be any sport. It doesn't have to be basketball.
I can't think of any off my head, but I'm sure there's a baseball roadie that I'm just kind of oh, okay, I guess we'll go there.
So for me, I was gonna say when James Dickey's last year when we went to UTRGV for some fucking reason, I was just like, we gave them a road game, huh? And somehow, like miracle of miracles for that era of Cougar basketball, we didn't lose it in very embarrassing fashion. But that was the only came to my mind. Dustin.
I was gonna say I did the road trip and watched us lose during the James Dickey era to both Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and also Prairie View A&M.
That's right. You and I had lunch at Torchy's Tacos the same day that you went up to PV.
Two games that I both at various points as I was watching us lose those games was asking myself, why did we give these guys a road game exactly?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So
on that happy note,
one of the many brilliant.
It is a note.
Era.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Well, on that note, we will go ahead and end it as usual. We're going to say thank you. Big hearty thank you to our Scott and Holman podcast Patreon supporters. You know the deal. If you like this show, if you feel like you can afford $5 a month, patreon.com/SH podcast. You can sign up, get the bonus content, get the good karma. If you want to get in contact with us, you can email us shpodcast@gmail.com. You can tweet at us at shpodcast. And you can blue sky at us at podcast.bsky.social. In all these instances, I'm just assuming you know how to spell podcast. If not, I don't know. It's right there in the title of the show. I can't help you. I need you to learn to help yourself a little bit. I don't know why it's got real hostile at the end of this outro all of a sudden, but I think that's time. That's a sign that it's time to end this thing. So let's just say, as we always say,
go Cougs.